what would happen if every human being on Earth disappeared. This isn't the story of how we might vanish. It is the story of what happens to the world we leave behind. In this episode of Life After People, the 1.5 billion homes that house mankind are all in a race to survive, but each faces a different enemy. No matter where you live or what you keep inside, Life After People hits home. Welcome to Earth. Population 0. One day after People. These are the places that man called home, where families were raised, meals were shared, and people grew old. In America's vast suburbs alone, 23 million homes now stand empty. Including those in the town that invented American suburbia, Levittown, New York. Built during the post-World War II baby boom and fueled by America's love affair with the car, Levittown pioneered a new type of suburban living that took America by storm. These mass-produced prefabricated houses quickly multiplied into vast subdivisions. And by the year 2000, for the first time in history, half of all Americans lived in suburbs.
Levittown really fed the imagination of Americans for clean air, places where you could raise your kids in safety.
Now, this classic prototype of suburbia is devoid of people, but not of explosive danger. Because in kitchens and hot water heaters everywhere, the gas is still on. In the time of humans, most American homes were heated by natural gas. The highly flammable methane was pumped from naturally pressurized wells through 2.2 million miles of underground pipelines and compressors. But disasters sometimes erupted from this massive subterranean network.
Natural gas lines typically are ruptured because mankind intervenes with them. They dig up a pipe and rupture the pipe and causes a failure in the structural integrity. The fires can be very catastrophic because you're blowing methane gas into the air and it's mixing, and you've got a very large blowtorch going on there.
Now, natural pressure from the wells is enough to keep gas flowing into kitchens that will never see another meal.
In a Life After People, the gas isn't going to stop flowing. It's still under pressure, it's flowing through the lines, and it's still going to come to the houses. The pilot lights are going to continue to burn.
Natural gas has no smell, but a substance called mercaptan was added to give it a distinctive odor that could alert people to leaks. Still, gas leaks cause 2,500 home fires and explosions each year, which killed dozens and injured hundreds. Now, people are gone, but leaks still occur.
The best detector for a gas leak is your nose. But in Life After People, there will be nobody around to smell it. And then all you need is a spark.
The stove's pilot light provides the spark. And this kitchen is toast. One week after People, stately homes face an entirely different enemy. On New York's Central Park, the luxurious San Remo apartments look down on a Manhattan devoid of man. In the time of humans, San Remo's apartments sold for up to $20 million.
The building is a prestige building. Apartments in the San Remo are huge.
Now, the elite have moved out, and catastrophe is about to move in. A catastrophe that stems from a material that epitomized luxury. The danger emanates from a high-end paint with an unusual ingredient.
Many of the owners in the San Remo have chosen to use paints that were made with linseed oil rather than with a solvent that evaporates. It provides this beautiful glossy sheen, and it takes color very, very well. What happens when you're a painter? You leave the rags on the can of linseed oil paint. If it's just overnight, doesn't matter. But after people, those rags are time bombs.
As linseed oil interacts with oxygen in the air, the chemical reaction produces heat. Without adequate ventilation, spontaneous combustion can occur. In the time of humans, this was a common cause of household fires. In 1991, cotton rags soaked with linseed oil triggered a massive blaze in a Philadelphia high-rise. Now, at the San Remo, the paint-soaked rags are smoldering. This New York icon is turning into a different kind of hot property. Over in the Bronx stands the mirror opposite of the swanky San Remo. Co-op City, one of the nation's largest apartment complexes crammed with 55,000 residents, epitomized the cheaply constructed high-rises of the 1960s.
This was badly constructed in the first place. Given the history of these structures, it really only takes 10 or 15 years after people for major parts of the structure to begin failing.
Co-op City's 50,000 pilings face a daunting enemy. They're sunk into reclaimed tidal marshland, which sinks a fraction of an inch each year.
The ground around the columns is slowly sinking. So what you have is a pavement area where you see the curbstone isn't tied to the rest of the building at all, and it's already significantly below what the original building line was.
The San Remo and Co-op City represent polar opposites in apartment engineering. One will be marred by fire in a life after people, will the other face death by water. One month after people, methane in its gaseous state is not the only threat to the former homes of man. Another form of fuel, and one of mankind's coldest substances, is ominously warming up.
Liquefied natural gas is the liquid version of methane gas. If you take methane gas and cool it down to about minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit, it becomes a liquid. The reason for using liquefied natural gas is for ease of transportation. Since the volume is so much less, 600 times less, say, then you can fill a truck or a ship with liquid natural gas and carry much more of it on a smaller vessel.
If the liquid heats up, it becomes a gas again. And once the concentration in the air reaches 5%, it can become one of the most explosive substances on Earth.
Liquefied natural gas, once it's stored in a tank, could be very explosive, much more so than other forms of fossil fuels. And when it mixes with air, then you have a very volatile, explosive ability, and it can destroy many city blocks with one explosion.